over 3 decades, these 5 lane-wide straightaways and 4-story-high banks have provided the setting for some of NASCAR's most thrilling races and electrifying finishes. Historically, just the mere mention of the word Talladega has been enough to give the drivers chills and the fans thrills. So it is our pleasure to welcome you live to the world's fastest stock car facility, Talladega Superspeedway in Talladega, Alabama, for this, the 32nd renewal of the NASCAR Winston Cup Series Winston 500. With just 5 events remaining in the chase for the Winston Cup, Bobby Labonte finds himself with a comfortable 252-point lead, his largest of the year. Jeff Burton holds a slim 6-point advantage over Dale Earnhardt, while just 45 points separate Dale Jarrett in 4th from teammate Ricky Rudd back in 6th. Many believe that this track holds the key to Bobby Labonte's run to the title. In other words, if he can dodge the bullets here today, then he's on his way.
It is racing's most delicate and most dangerous dance. A colorful spectrum of speed, a polka dot ballet of landlocked missiles that are on the edge. Held together by man, separated by fate. Today, racing's champion in waiting runs the sport's longest and most frightening gauntlet of terror, Talladega. Point leader Bobby Labonte knows in every season of smiles, a little rain will fall. But that's okay, because right now nothing can dampen the desire or the discipline of this quarterback, his coach, or their crew. While Bobby Labonte will start 6th today, nothing frightens them except maybe, well, Talladega. Bobby Labonte will start 6th. He knows there are just 5 races to go. He has 4 top 10 finishes in a row and 4 wins this season. Last Sunday, one of the strongest statements this year that this team is charging after the championship instead of simply chasing it. A stirring win at Charlotte that added 39 precious points to his already bulky lead. Labonte's season has been spectacular, but Bobby is not bulletproof. Only twice this year has he finished outside the top 15, but one of those races was here, 21st in April. But before that, 7 straight finishes of 8th or better at Talladega. Another top 10 today would go a long way toward making Bobby Labonte number 1. But this team came here to win.
5 drivers enter today's race with a shot at $1 million bonus if they can pull off a victory. 2 of those drivers, Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Burton, are also looking at winning the ultimate prize, the NASCAR Winston Cup Championship. But bad luck and on-track run-ins have left them a step behind, and time is quickly running out. Only 5 races remain as the Intimidator tries to overcome the obstacles he faces in search of a record 8th championship. And both start today's race behind the 8 ball, or at least behind the 18. Earnhardt starts 20th today, while Burton rolls off from the 37th position. But don't write them off just because they're not starting closer to the front. Dale won this race last year after starting from the 27th position. Plus, he has 9 wins here and basically finishes in the top 5 half the time. Burton, on the other hand, doesn't have such a stellar record at Talladega. He's never won here and has just 4 top 10 finishes. But he won the last restrictor plate race at Daytona. And as for starting 37th, Jeff Gordon proved in the spring it doesn't matter where you start. He won from the 36th position.
Talladega is an old Indian term, meaning he who has slingshot has a powerful weapon. The big boxy cars of the 1980s were much less aerodynamic, and we saw drivers like Benny Parsons and Bill Elliott make slingshot moves that we'll never forget.
Rusty watches high. Look at Elliott. Elliott low side passes. Rusty, though, hanging right in there. Look at this great competition. Down the backstretch, Davey Allison is right on the back bumper of Bill Elliott. And now Allison goes for it on the low side. Look, oh, they almost touch. Unbelievable. Allison has the lead. Kyle Petty is coming on the low side.
As the Winston Cup cars have become more and more aerodynamic, they've had to get a smaller restrictor plate because the cars keep going faster and faster. But when you get a smaller restrictor plate, the drivers don't like that because they want throttle response. So NASCAR came with a new aerodynamic package. Lots of things to try to create drag, like this roof strip up on top and a much, much taller spoiler with a little wicker bill on it. It's kind of like a parachute, and it was all designed to steal horsepower. They've taken away about 150 horsepower with all this drag. But to compensate, they opened up the holes in the restrictor plates to 1 inch. but the cars, folks, were still way too fast. So minutes before happy hour, the drivers were issued plates with a 15/16-inch restrictor plate. So the question today is, can Davey slay Goliath? And which driver has that trusty old slingshot in his back pocket?
And at this moment, Ray, 43 of the world's best stock car drivers sit alone with their thoughts as we go down to the grid for the command.
And now for the most famous words in auto racing, Mr. Jim White.
Gentlemen, start your engine.
I'm Jerry Punch, and we are glad to have you with us today here at Talladega. You know, if you were to take the NASCAR record book and flip to the page on most competitive races, you would learn very quickly that 4 of the 5 most competitive races in the history of the sport have happened right here at Talladega. Back in 1984, we saw a NASCAR record 75 lead changes, and 2 years later, over half the field, 26 drivers, led this race. Now, given the rule changes this week and what we're hearing from the garage area, they hope that the headlines tomorrow around this country will read, at Talladega, grown men use slingshots to bring the fans to their feet. Well, let's hear what our experts think. Let's bring in our champions and my heroes. Here's Benny Parsons and Jarrett.
You know, since 1969, they've been racing at Talladega. They've averaged over 35 lead changes per race. But you got to go back to 1989 to find a number larger than 35. So the last 11 years, 20, 25 lead changes. That's what NASCAR is trying to do, is to try to increase drag, make passing a little bit easier so we can see a lot more lead changes.
And I think we will, Benny. The happy hour yesterday was any indication. We saw a lot of 3 and 4 wide drafting out there, and also it was easier for the drivers to pass. You know, in the past, on the last lap, you wanted to be in the lead, at least for the last 5 or 6 years. But now they say that the lead car is going to be the sitting duck. We'll see at the end of this race.
Well, guys, if anticipation by fans and drivers alike means anything, this one today will be one to remember. I hope you put seatbelts on your sofa, because now it's time to strap it at home for hopefully the ride of a lifetime, Talladega Super Speedway style. As ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports, once again brings you NASCAR. Today live from the world's fastest stock car facility, 500 miles of high bank, high speed action.